remember in high school getting a teacher fresh out of uni. He was the best, super passionate about teaching, and would often incorporate music and comedy into his teaching to make it more interesting. Almost everyone in the class loved him because of it. There were 3 footy players who would always play up in class though, and the teacher spent extra attention on them, trying to get them just as excited about learning as the rest of the class, but they were simply too cool to pay attention in class. One day they took it too far. I can't remember the exact details, but I do remember that one of the footy players threw a chair as a joke either at another student, or at the teacher himself, and it just broke the poor guy. He lost his shit at the unruly students, and you could see the pure frustration in his face. He just wanted to teach, but these few students were hellbent on ruining it for everyone. He ended up just leaving the classroom in tears, and everyone in the class quickly turned against the kids who threw the chair. No, but once in chemistry class the teacher, Coach Bert, stopped writing on the board, looked straight ahead, and mumbled, "I could probably blow my brains all over this chalkboard, and y'all wouldn't even notice." The only people that heard him were me and the girl I was talking to. I responded, "Coach, I think that's a dry erase board, nobody uses chalk anymore." And he laughed, which made me feel slightly less concerned. Our form tutor was a kindly middle-aged Welsh gal, pure as anything, just happy to be doing her job. But teenagers being who they are, it made her a joke to many. She announced to the class she'd be leaving at the end of the term, or year, etc., and they all cheered and hooped. She left the classroom in tears. Kids can be assholes. Someone made the math teacher cry by saying math is the devil. Her license plate was math fun, so you know she was serious about it. Teacher posted pictures of her old Cocker Spaniel everywhere. Well, eventually it got sick and died. She took a few days off and was devastated. Class worked with the school and each other to pull the funds to get her a new puppy Cocker Spaniel. We presented it to her when she returned, and she was so happy she cried. Multiple times. We were a terrible class. She was our 6th grade teacher. Our school had this odd system where you had a homeroom teacher for most of the day, but then rotated around to other teachers for just a few classes. Our homeroom teacher was also the music teacher, and for some reason during music class all hell would break loose. She went on vacation for a week, and came back with a bad sunburn around the eyes, so we would only call her MRS. Raccoon. It caused her to get more tanning done. During one music class she really had to go to the washroom, so she left for about 4 seconds, and a fight broke out between a boy and a girl. The girl took the boy's head and threw it through a snare drum. He got stuck in there. She came back to thinking he was dead. Eventually she had a mental breakdown mid-class, and ran out into the hallway crying. The 7th grade teacher saw this, and instead of consoling her walked in, and just let us have it. I'll never forget that day. He said we were spoiled asshats for treating a teacher who only ever wanted to help us like trash. He screamed that if he had a teacher like her when he was a kid he would do everything he could to keep her. Yelled that if we kept acting this way we were in for a life of disappointment, brought on by our own rampant incompetence. It worked. Some of us cried, but everyone felt horrible, and we were all nice to her for the remaining year. I had a French teacher once. We were her first class since becoming a teacher, lovely woman, but many of us suspected she has mental health problems, always very quiet and mousy, and she always came in looking a bit messy, i.e. hair not brushed and makeup a bit smudged. There were these 2 girls who would just torment her. They hid pickled mussels around the classroom, and were just these loud obnoxious arseholes. Long story short, turns out the teacher's mum had just died, and on top of the stress of managing a class with some real horrible kids she had a nervous breakdown, and never came back. About 2 years later I was going to a concert, and saw her begging for money outside a train station. Just felt so horrible seeing what she had been reduced to, all because of some nasty fuckling kids that just pushed her and pushed her. We had a substitute once, and one of the football jocks went behind her and pretended to hump her. She glared back at him and began bawling. Poor lady. 7th grade English, we were still breaking down parts of speech. Our teacher, let's call her MRS T, was trying extra hard to be happy and get our attention, and asked one of the worst behaved kids for an example of a sentence so we could break it down as a class. He waited till the room was silent, looked her dead in the eyes and said, MRS T is a bad teacher. She put it up on the board and broke it down through tears. Still makes me mad over 15 years later. It was the end of the day, and a whole bunch of us 9-year-olds were getting ready to go home, when this kid who was always trying to make trouble started arguing with the teacher about the next day's homework, and she made some comment about his mom, and then he made a rude joke about the teacher's mom, and she burst into tears and screamed her mom was dead. Then we sat in silence for like 5 minutes while the teacher cried. Edit. Also, that same teacher once came in crying in the morning, and when we asked what happened, she said one of her past students died of leukemia. The worst thing was that we saw that girl like a week before while the class was taking a walk in the woods, and she and her mom mentioned how she was recovering and was feeling so much better. Teacher here. I was witness to the death of one of my former students, pedestrian hit by a car right outside my apartment. This was pretty common knowledge to my students, and during a Kahoot game one of them put her name as their nickname. Couldn't help tearing up, and I let the waterworks start during my prep period. First year of an all-girls high school, music teacher who always held out her hand when she said stop, not that long after the Spice Girls released their song Stop. Led to a classroom of 24 girls, standing on the tables reenacting the whole dance routine. I remember on my last day in English class in 5th grade our teacher cried, because we were so awesome, and she was going to miss us. Apparently she did this every year, but it was kind of sweet lol. It was middle school band. About 70 kids with instruments. And about half of those kids would not stop playing them super obnoxiously. Props to the teacher for keeping it together as long as she did though. Oh my. Yes. Substitute came in and we just broke her so thoroughly, so completely. I felt awful, but she also wasn't equipped to deal with us. 13-year-olds are the meanest people in the world. They terrify me to this day, because 8th graders will make fun of you, but in an accurate way. My 3rd grade teacher had left under family circumstances, prob death, and I didn't realize that at the time. I asked what she left for, and she broke down crying. I felt like dog crap for the rest of the day for making the teacher cry. I still feel bad. Sad face. Sorry, Mrs. Moore. Her breath stunk from meters away. We anonymously left a bottle of Listerine on her desk. We thought we were being kind, she thought it was a horrible prank. These days I can see her point. I made a teacher cry. I was feeling unwell and didn't want to pack up, I wanted fresh air, and she cried after arguing with me. In hindsight, I think me not feeling well was a panic attack, because I ended up running from the classroom. When I was in HS we were misbehaving as a whole group, just making noise, and not listening, and joining around and finding just about everything that was happening far too funny, nothing too major. A few of us got sent out to stand in the corridor until she got a handle on things. When she came out to speak to us, one dude was leaning up against the doorframe with his hand, and upon realizing we couldn't contain our laughter at this point, she decided to leave us out there and stormed back into the class, slamming the door. It was at this point, the dude screamed with the force of 1,000 sun. I hadn't heard anything quite like it. Teacher comes back out instantly, steam bellowing out of her ears ready to completely destroy our childhoods. She turned to the kid, and noticed the end of his finger hanging off, instantly realizing she'd shut it in the door. Her mood changed just as quickly, and she just broke down into tears. I would have felt bad, but it just topped off the list of things I shouldn't have been laughing at already. Elementary music teacher here. The art teacher next door was having trouble with her classroom behavior management. The assistant principal entered her room while she had a class and completely undermined her. Assistant principal told her she didn't know what she was doing in front of the kids and redirected the class to show art teacher how it's done. Art teacher threw a fit, cursed her out, and left smack dab in the middle of the school day. Luckily my instincts kicked in, and I told my AP to just bring the rest of her classes to me that day, and I had 2 classes at a time that day. I get that she needed to fix her management skills, but it's like teacher code. You don't undermine another teacher in front of students.